That year, I suffered a serious head injury in an accident. For the next 3 years, I lived in confusion and despair, pitied by everyone in the village. In the last year of that time, something unexpected happened. A young woman from the village set a cruel trap, deceiving another girl and bringing her into my house, hoping to ruin her reputation. Overwhelmed by gossip and judgment, the girl left the village, and no one knew that she was already carrying a child. Years later, when I finally discovered the truth about what had happened to her and the child, it was too late. Both of them were gone. Then, one day, I woke to an impossible reality. I had returned to June 3rd, 1980.
All my memories from those years came rushing back at once. Li Nguyen, wake up, I whispered anxiously. Please, put on your coat and leave through the back door. Go straight to the youth camp. If anyone asks, don't say you were here last night. I'll explain everything later. Sweat dripped down my forehead. I knew it wouldn't be long before Tran Thuy Lien brought the entire village here. What's going on? Li Nguyen asked as she hurried to get ready. It was Tran Thuy Lien, I said quietly. She wanted to harm you. Everything that happened last night, she planned it. Yesterday, the whole village held a farewell celebration for the first group of educated youths returning to the city. Everyone drank and celebrated, including Li Nguyen. When the night grew late, she was unsteady on her feet, and Tran Thuy Lien offered to help her back. But somehow she ended up here, at the house of the village fool. When she finally remembered what had happened, tears filled her eyes. What happened last night can't be undone, I said calmly. So I'll take responsibility for you. I promise I'll find a way to make things right without affecting your return to the city. Li Nguyen quickly shook her head. No, that's not necessary. I wasn't surprised by her reaction. To everyone in the village, I was still the fool. And besides, I was already engaged to Lieu Nguyen.
Li Nguyen, tôi nói tiếp. First of all, my mind, my illness, it cleared up completely last night. You can test me anytime you want. I'm not the same person anymore. Tôi hít một hơi thật sâu. Although I was engaged to Lieu Nguyen 2 years ago, I've never crossed any lines with her. She never even visited me again after I became like that. Let's not talk about that for now. You need to go back to the youth camp and stay away from Trần Thuy Lien. She doesn't mean well. But she's my best friend, Li Nguyen said, her voice trembling. Why would she want to harm me? Because Trần Thuy Lien likes Triệu Dung, the man who's been pursuing you at the camp. She was jealous and she wanted to ruin your name. I'll tell you everything later, but for now, you must go. After saying that, I gently guided Li Nguyen toward the back door.
Just as she stepped outside, a sharp voice echoed from the front yard. Comrades, Li Nguyen didn't return home last night. Someone said they saw her entering the fool's house. It was Tran Thuy Lien's voice, loud and full of accusation. But words alone don't prove anything. Did Comrade Chojung just make that up? We'll know as soon as we check the fool's room, Tran Thuy Lien said with confidence. A crowd had gathered behind her, men, women and youngsters, all staring at the back door where Quach Ra stood with a heavy expression. The so-called fool opened the door. Someone said they passed by this morning and heard a woman's voice inside. A villager muttered. Hearing the gossip only made Tran Thuy Lien more pleased with herself. Li Nguyen, don't be afraid, we'll get you out, she cried, a thin, cold smile flashing across her face. She leaned in and whispered to Chojung. Li Nguyen didn't know what to think. To reject a respectable comrade like him and crawl into the fool's room? How shameful!
Tran Thuy Lien thought. Jiuzhong's face hardened. The man he had been pursuing for so long would rather sneak into the fool's room than be his girlfriend? Everyone step back. I'll kick the door down. We'll catch them together. Jiuzhong rushed forward and Tran Thuy Lien shoved the door hard. At that moment, the heavy wooden door suddenly swung open from the inside. Jiuzhong lunged forward and stumbled, crashing down awkwardly against the threshold. He fell to the ground in an undignified heap, the momentum carrying him forward and stopping him at the doorway. With a sharp cry, Trio Young doubled over in pain, clutching himself. Then he fainted on the spot. In my previous life, after what happened between Liu Nguyen and me, Trio Young's behavior changed drastically. He not only taunted her with cruel words, but also constantly pressured her to be with him. Quach Ra looked at Trio Young and let a cold smile slip across his face. Now that he had been reborn, how could he allow Trio Young to carry on? That fool! Is Liu Nguyen still in your room? Did she spend the night at your place? Other young villagers and townspeople demanded. Seeing Quach Ra, big and solid, blocking the door with a menacing air, no one dared rush inside. "What are you all doing? Are you ganging up on Quach Ra?" someone called out. But then Quach Ra's good friend, Voing Duc Phop, stepped forward. "Voing, don't be scared, Quach Ra," people said as Voing moved in to defend him. "Ladies and gentlemen, fellow villagers, Quach Ra has been called the Fool for years. Haven't we known that for a long time?" Voing said, circling the point until he finally spoke plainly. Quach Ra, standing behind him, felt touched. "These are his friends," he added. "That's how it should be." Voing urged the crowd to back off. "We won't cause trouble for him." Someone else chimed in. "This morning I walked by and heard what sounded like a woman's voice from inside." The rumor spread and settled over the yard like a thin fog. "Quach Ra, step aside. Let them check the house," someone shouted. "It's fine, Voing. Look, he's turning around and searching for Quach Ra already." "There's no woman in my house," Quach Ra said firmly. "But everyone saw Liu Yuan enter your home. Stop denying it." "Who saw her?" Quach Ra asked coldly. The moment he spoke, silence fell across the yard. Everyone stared at him in shock. This wasn't the voice of a fool. If he wasn't pretending, then he must have completely recovered. "You, answer me." His sharp tone made Tran Thuy Lien flinch. She knew things had gone too far. What was meant to be a small lie had turned into something much bigger. I saw it myself," she stammered. "In the middle of the night? What would a woman be doing outside my house?" Quach Ra asked. "Can't I walk past your place?" Tran Thuy Lien snapped back, her voice turning sharp and defensive. "Quach Ra, you're not a fool anymore," Voing Duc Phop exclaimed. He didn't care about the rumors. He was only focused on one thing. Had Quach Ra truly recovered? "You're no fool now, my friend. This is amazing. We have to tell your grandfather." 3 years ago, Quach Ra's head injury had left him in that condition, and the shock had driven his grandfather into illness. His father had taken the old man home to care for him ever since. "Move aside. We must help Li Nian," Tran Thuy Lien cried, trying to steer the crowd again, but her voice trembled. She could tell things were no longer under her control. Her words drew the attention of a few village officials standing nearby, who nodded in agreement. Yet, deep down, the crowd was already whispering, realizing that the so-called fool was no longer the same man they once pitied. "Did you hear me, fool? If you don't move, you'll be standing against the entire village," Tran Thuy Lien shouted. Seeing a few villagers nod in agreement, she grew more confident. "Lin Wen was the one I personally brought here last night," she said to the crowd. "Once we go inside and find her, you'll all know the truth." The group followed Tran Thuy Lien into the house, only to find it completely empty. Confused whispers spread among them. Dozens of eyes turned toward Tran Thuy Lien. At that moment, Quach Ra stepped forward, holding up a white porcelain cup. "Tran Thuy Lien," he said coldly, "last night, you handed me this cup. You told me it was just sugar water and asked me to drink it. Do you remember that?" Her face instantly went pale. I didn't. You're making that up," she stammered.
"Then explain this." Quach Ra said, "You claimed you saw Lin Nguyen enter my room, yet there's no one inside. Why lie about something like that?"
"I must have seen it wrong," she mumbled.
But before she could continue, one of the older villagers spoke sternly. Chantui Lian, that's not right. You accused someone without being sure, and now look what you've done. I even told others to learn from you. Seems I was mistaken. Another villager added, how could you make such claims when it was dark? If you were wrong, you should admit it. That's what an honest youth should do. The crowd fell into an uneasy silence. The portraits of respected leaders on the wall seemed to watch the scene unfold, as if silently judging the truth from above. Are the banners on the walls all just for show? Have you forgotten everything they taught you? It's heartbreaking to see, someone cried, and a ripple of agreement swept through the crowd.
Chung Thang Loi stepped forward, scolding with stiff formality. He was only 22, but he always acted like some old scholar. Don't give me those empty slogans. We young educated villagers know those city catchphrases as well as you do. He glanced sharply at Chantui Lian. Yet just now, you acted so differently, so nervous, so dishonest. It's sickening. If you're going to keep denying it, then drink from this cup. I won't, she protested. Why should I drink anything? To prove your innocence, Quach Ra replied. He held the white porcelain cup up. If this cup is harmless, then it shows you meant no harm. A cruel smile crossed Quach Ra's face as he brought the cup closer to Chantui Lian's lips. The woman who had always been quick with words suddenly found herself at a loss. Fine, he said. Let me put it plainly. You put a stimulant used for livestock into that cup. He continued, voice low and steady. The dose was not small. If a person drank it, it could cause uncontrollable behavior or worse. Do you even realize this is an animal medication? Chantui Lian froze, not knowing what to do. If you drink this water, Quach Ra said calmly, and everyone watches for a while, if nothing happens, that will prove I was wrong about you. Chantui Lian instinctively took a step back. The room was empty. Lieu was nowhere to be seen. Quach Ra, the man once called a fool, was now speaking clearly and confidently. She knew exactly what was in that cup. If she drank it, there was no telling what might happen once the substance took effect. Panic flashed across her face. No, I won't drink it, she cried, covering her mouth as tears welled in her eyes. Just then, the village chief, Vương Phúc, father of Vương Đức Phát, entered with several others. His voice was stern. Comrade Chen, how could you do such a thing? We trusted you to be a good friend to Lieu. Chief, Quach Ra interrupted. Chantui Lian thought I was still a fool. Last night, she brought a drink meant to take advantage of me. She assumed I wasn't in my right mind and that no one would ever find out. He looked directly at her. But something changed last night. For reasons I still don't understand, my illness vanished. My mind is clear again.
You're lying, Chantui Lian shouted, trembling with anger. You're twisting everything. I never did such a thing. Quach Ra's tone hardened. You talk about honesty, yet when I refused you, you caused a scene so others would hear a woman's voice in my house. That's how the rumors started. And as for Lieu, I haven't even seen her since last night. The crowd fell silent. At the mention of Lieu's name, everyone suddenly remembered. She was supposed to be at the center of this whole incident. Where was she? He turned slowly to face her. Last night I was violently ill. I lost count of how many times I had to go to the latrine. I had no strength to run around. He forced a dry half-smile. There's an old saying, even a hero can be brought low by 3 bouts of sickness. Lieu, he continued, addressing her directly, you shouldn't work in the group today. Take a day off. If there's any trouble, report it to the committee. The village won't punish anyone unfairly.
All eyes turned to Lieu, and a heavy silence fell over the yard. Quach Ra's voice lowered to a tone only Chantui Lian could hear. He asked calmly if she thought she could escape punishment by admitting she had spiked Lieu's drink, and led her into his room. Chantui Lian went pale, her face drained of color. He reminded her that even if the court handed down a long sentence, she would be old by the time she got out. Would that be better than living freely now? He added that if she was sincere, she could still restore her reputation in the village, and for the good of everyone, that was the better path. His words were firm but controlled, warning her that the real punishment would come when the truth was revealed, and he would not allow anyone who harmed Liu to live at ease. Quach Ra stepped back calmly and said that for now he would hold off on pressing heavier charges, but her reputation would take the first hit. Everything else would be settled later, and it would cost her more. Then he turned to the village chief and volunteered to take responsibility for resolving the matter. Tran Thuy Lien immediately confessed, saying it was because she drank too much last night and lost her senses, and that she accepted whatever criticism the committee gave her. The crowd was stunned, the news hitting them like a shockwave.
Then explain this. Quach Ra said, "You claimed you saw Liu enter my room, yet there's no one inside. Why lie about something like that?" "I must have seen it wrong," she mumbled. But before she could continue, one of the older villagers spoke sternly. "Thuy Lien, that's not right. You accused someone without being sure, and now look what you've done. I even told others to learn from you. Seems I was mistaken." Another villager added, "How could you make such claims when it was dark? If you were wrong, you should admit it. That's what an honest youth should do." The crowd fell into an uneasy silence. The portraits of respected leaders on the wall seemed to watch the scene unfold, as if silently judging the truth from above. "Are the banners on the walls all just for show? Have you forgotten everything they taught you? It's heartbreaking to see," someone cried, and a ripple of agreement swept through the crowd.
The chief turned to the younger men. "You kids get to the fields for your work points. If you don't, I'll give you extra chores." "My stomach hurts," a boy protested. "Take today off then, but don't make a habit of it. If you want days off every month, you'll have to ask properly," Chief Wong Fuk snapped, glaring at his son. "You useless boy! You're going to drive me crazy one of these days," the village chief, Wong Fuk, scolded. Then he turned toward Liu and softened his tone. "Comrade Li, you should go back to the dorm and get some rest. The rest of us will head to the fields." As he spoke, he grabbed his son, Fath Wong, by the arm and dragged him along. "Ouch! Ouch! Father, that hurts! I'm going to work already." But his father didn't let go, and the villagers, half amused and half fearful, followed them out to the fields. Before long, only Quach Ra and Liu remained. I should head back to the dorm," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper, as she avoided his gaze. "I'll walk you back," Quach Ra offered. "On the way, I'll explain everything that happened last night." Hearing that, Liu slowed her steps. She wanted to know the truth. "That guy, Chujung," Quach Ra said, "his family's doing quite well. That's why Thuy Lien tried to get close to him, to make her life easier, to take a shortcut." "A shortcut?" Liu blinked. "A road that takes decades to walk?" Quach Ra chuckled. "What I mean is, she wanted to rely on him to step into a wealthy family. Then she wouldn't have to work hard anymore." "Oh, you mean she wanted to become some kind of rich lady?" Quach Ra smiled. "Exactly. You're quick to understand. No wonder people used to call me a prodigy, but now I think you might outsmart me." Liu tilted her head, curious. "So, how did you end up becoming the village fool then?" Quach Ra sighed, a faint smile on his lips. "It's a long story. I once helped the Liu family gather wild herbs to survive a famine, but while helping them, I slipped on a slope, hit my head on a rock, and, well, that's how I lost my wits for 3 years."
"Let's not talk about that anymore," Quach just said softly. "Let's go back to what happened yesterday." He took a deep breath before continuing. Tran Thuy Lien noticed that Chozung only had eyes for you. She knew she had no chance with him. And when she heard that he might soon return to the city, she panicked and decided to do something desperate. Her plan was simple. If everyone believed you spend the night with, well, me, then Chiozung will stop pursuing you. Li Nguyen's face turned pale. But I never paid him any attention. I always tried to stay away from him. Why would Tran Quy Lian do that to me? I thought she was my friend. Her voice trembled. That sense of betrayal from someone she trusted cut deeper than any wound. I am truly sorry for what happened last night, Quach just said, guilt in his tone. Everything happened because of the drink she gave me. Li Nguyen frowned. But didn't you say you didn't drink it? I saw you holding that cup. At that time, Quach Ra explained, my mind still wasn't fully clear. I did drink it, and after that, everything just happened. Li Nguyen lowered her gaze, her voice barely a whisper. Let's not bring up what happened again. I know you didn't mean for it to happen. You already have someone you love. If people found out, you could lose her, and worse, they'd misunderstand you completely. Just like in his previous life, Li Nguyen still thought of others before herself, never once for her own sake. Quach Ra clenched his fist slightly, his voice firm but gentle. Li Nguyen, about what happened between us, once you return to the city. When you return to the city, Quach Ra said gently, I'll go to your home and ask for your hand in marriage. That way, nothing will be left unresolved. He took a deep breath, his eyes firm. As for Lieu Nguyen, the one I was once engaged to, I'll cancel that engagement immediately. It's not out of cruelty, but because her family has gone too far. He looked into the distance, as though seeing memories long buried. Last night, when my mind finally cleared, the memories of those 3 lost years came rushing back. Before my accident, the Lieu family barely had enough to eat. I often climbed the mountain to gather wild herbs and share them with them so they could survive. But after I became not myself anymore, they never visited me once. Tell me, are people like that the kind of family you'd want to tie your life to?
Lieu Nguyen clenched her fists. That's heartless, truly heartless. Quach Ra gave a faint, bitter smile. And that's not all. During those 3 years, Lieu Nguyen's younger sister, Lieu Ngu Mai, often came to my grandfather demanding money. If he refused, she threatened to make her sister break the engagement. My grandfather, afraid no one would care for me after he was gone, gave in again and again, saving every coin just to hand it over to them. His voice trembled slightly as he continued, eyes glistening with restrained pain. In my previous life, my grandfather's health worsened from stress and lack of proper food. Every bit of money he had taken by that family, in the end, he passed away from a weak heart. Lieu Nguyen's eyes widened in disbelief. How could they do something so cruel? Quach Ra let out a quiet laugh, not of joy, but of sorrowful acceptance.
Và chuyện đó không dừng lại ở đó. Em trai của Lieu Nguyen often teased me why I was unwell. One time, he even accidentally bumped my head. Ironically, that moment is what helped me recover. Strange, isn't it? The same people who caused me trouble were also the ones who helped me move forward. Li Nguyen's voice trembled with emotion. That family, how could they treat you like that? Quach Ra looked at her and, for the first time, smiled warmly. It doesn't matter anymore. What's past is past. All that matters is the life ahead. Li Nguyen looked at him in disbelief. How can you still smile after everything they put you through? Quach Ra's smile grew softer, not bitter, but peaceful.
Because this time, my grandfather is still alive. You're still here. And the future that once slipped away from me, it's all still within reach. He brushed the dust off his hands and nodded. All right, that's enough for today. Go back and get some rest. Don't overwork yourself. I'll visit my grandfather now and come see you tomorrow. As he watched her walk away, Quach Ra sighed quietly. He could still sense the distance in her eyes, the hesitation, the fear. She still doesn't trust me, he thought, but that's okay. I'll take my time. According to the memories of his past life, Li Yen still held feelings for someone, a man named Tong Tuk. But after she was sent to the countryside, Tong Tuk turned his attention to her younger sister, Li Lan, and eventually married her.
Quach Ra knew. Only when Ling Wen herself let go of that old love would he have a real chance. In my past life, he murmured, things took a very different turn that night. But now, I'll make sure everything changes. He looked toward the fading sunlight and whispered to himself, this time, I'll protect what truly matters, Ling Wen, and the child that fate once took away from us. Back at the youth housing area, Ling Wen hurried home to rest, unaware that Quach Ra's journey had only just begun. Quach Ra made his way to his grandfather's room. The old man was sitting by the window, sunlight falling across his wrinkled hands. "Grandfather," Quach Ra said with emotion, "my illness, it's gone. I'm better now." The old man froze, disbelief flashing across his eyes. "What did you say?" "It's true, I've fully recovered." Tears welled up in the grandfather's eyes as he grasped his grandson's hands. "Good, good. They told me you'd finally come back to your senses, but I didn't dare believe it. Now that I see the light in your eyes, I know my clever grandson has truly returned. Grandfather, I'm healed. My mind is clear again," Quach Ra said, his voice trembling. The old man's hand shook slightly. "Truly? You're no longer—" "Yes," Quach Ra interrupted softly, tears welling up. The weight of years pressed down on both of them. In his past life, Quach Ra hadn't made it back in time. His grandfather had passed away before he could say goodbye. That regret had haunted him ever since. But this time, fate had given him another chance. "Grandfather," he said with determination, "since I've recovered, the next one to get better will be you. I'll earn money for your treatment, I promise." The old man smiled gently. "Silly boy. Everyone must one day return to the earth. I'm already satisfied to see you well again before my time comes." He sighed, eyes distant. "Only if I could know what became of your brother, Quach Tong, that would be enough for me."
Quach Ra clenched his fists. "I'll find him, grandfather. Whether he's still out there or gone, I'll bring him home, I promise." The old man's lips curved into a faint smile. "You're just like your father and uncle, both brave men who loved their country." Quach Ra's chest tightened. His grandfather, Quach Leng Kong, had once served on the front lines, a man of honor, now worn down by age and hardship. "Your illness isn't as serious as you think," Quach Ra said softly, holding his grandfather's hand. "You've been worrying about me for too long and eating too little. Now that I'm better, we'll go to the hospital together. You'll recover soon." For the first time in years, a spark of hope returned to the old man's eyes.
In this new life, Quach Ra finally understood. Everything was still in time. He could still protect his family. He could still make things right. "Grandson, is it true? You're really cured?" The old man's voice trembled, half in disbelief, half in joy. Earlier that day, Uncle Quach Jai Fong, a respected elder of the village, had run into some neighbors who told him the news that Quach Ra had recovered his senses. He hurried home at once. Seeing him at the gate, Quach Ra bowed respectfully. "Uncle, my illness is truly gone. Thank you for taking care of Grandpa and me all these years." The old man chuckled, patting his shoulder. "Nonsense, your family. Looking after you and your grandfather is only right. But still, this is a blessing from the heavens. The ancestors must be smiling on us." Just as the two were speaking, a sharp female voice echoed from outside the yard.
So, about that allowance money, you still haven't brought it over to our house. Must I come collect it myself? The sound made Quach Ra's brow crease. He recognized it instantly. It was Lieu Mai, the younger sister of his former fiancée, Lieu Rumian, a woman with a reputation for greed and arrogance. Grandpa tried to stay calm. "It's not that we didn't mean to pay," he said patiently. "We've just been busy harvesting potatoes. The allowance only came in yesterday. We were planning to bring it today."
Lieu Mai folded her arms, eyes glinting. "Well, I'll give you another chance. But from now on, the amount must go up. My sister can't possibly keep caring for him forever without more support." Before Quach Ra could reply, his grandfather's voice grew firm. "The allowance didn't increase," he said calmly. "What changed is that my grandson has recovered. He's no longer unwell. There's no reason for your family to keep taking his support funds." Lieu Mai blinked, surprised, then narrowed her eyes. "What did you say? He's better? That can't be true." She turned toward Quach Ra, disbelief crossing her face. The man who once stood silent and vacant now stood tall, sharp-eyed, his posture confident and calm, a completely different person from the one she remembered. For the first time, Lieu Mai felt a flicker of unease. Perhaps the days of easy money from the Quach family were finally ending. At that moment, Uncle Quach Jai Fang took out the allowance that had just been issued the day before. Seeing the cash, Lieu Mai's eyes lit up immediately. She didn't care whether Quach Ra was truly recovered or not. Her gaze was fixed on the money in his hand. But before she could reach for it, Quach Ra stepped forward and said firmly, "This money no longer belongs to your family, and from today on, you won't receive a single coin more." "What did you say?" Lieu Mai's face tightened in anger. "How could you take what's ours?" She moved forward, frustrated that her advantage was slipping away. Quach Ra's eyes grew cold. "That's enough, Lieu Mai. My mind is clear now. For 3 years, your family has taken my grandfather's veteran pension. Every time it was issued, you'd show up right away." The old man quickly tried to calm things down. "Grandson, mind your tone. She's your future sister-in-law. We're all one family after all."
But Quach Ra didn't back down. "Family? When I was sick, where were they? They never cared whether I lived or died. They only came when money was involved." Lieu Mai sneered, tilting her chin arrogantly. Even if my sister didn't abandon you when you were a fool, shouldn't you at least repay her kindness? That money will support you in your old age anyway, won't it?" Her tone dripped with contempt as she stepped closer, finger pointing straight at Quach Ra. A sharp smack echoed through the yard. Everyone froze. Lieu Mai clutched her cheek in disbelief. Quach Ra had slapped her hand away. He wasn't the dull, blank-eyed fool she remembered. You dared to touch me?" she screamed. "Fine, I'll make sure your whole family pays for this." Her shrill voice carried beyond the gate, drawing the attention of nearby villagers. People began gathering, whispering among themselves. From the edge of the crowd, someone muttered, "Wasn't Quach Ra supposed to be an idiot? He sure doesn't look like one now." Quach Ra took a step forward, his voice calm but powerful. "Lieu Mai, that's enough. My illness is gone, and from today, the Quach family won't let anyone take advantage of us again." The crowd went silent. The fool of the village was no longer a fool. "Quach Ra, for the past 3 years, I've remembered everything that happened. And you still dare to say I'm ungrateful? Do you even know how I became ill in the first place?" He took a step forward, his voice echoing through the yard. "Ever since I fell from that mountain, did any of you from the Lieu family come to visit me? Not even once. When my wounds healed, you didn't stop taking advantage of me, the so-called fool of the village.
You made me work for you like a servant. Even the dirty water from your laundry,
I was the one carrying it away. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Is that what you call taking care of me for 3 years? Don't make me laugh. He pointed straight at Liu Mai. And your sister, Liu Yin, working at the sewing factory, always casting glances at the deputy manager's son. You think I didn't notice? I was injured because of your family, yet she never once brought me medicine, never even visited my home. His voice grew firmer, trembling with anger. That's what you call loyalty? That's what you call devotion? All of you, you never cared whether I lived or died. You just came to take my grandfather's pension every month. He turned to the crowd, eyes filled with fire.
My grandfather receives 45 yuan of veterans allowance every month, and your family took 40 of it again and again, 4 times over. Now my grandfather is unwell, and we don't even have enough money for his medicine. Liu Mai's face turned pale. She had no words to respond. The villagers began murmuring among themselves. Things didn't sound like what they had been told. Quach Ra's voice grew firm. Tell me, do you people even have a conscience? My grandfather is a war hero, a man who served this land. In your family, you have been taking advantage of him for too long. The courtyard fell silent. The villagers exchanged uneasy glances, realizing for the first time that the man they had mocked for years was standing tall, sharper and prouder than any of them. Quach Ra said, "She doesn't deserve to be my grandfather's granddaughter-in-law, nor do we need to be tied to a family like hers." His voice rang clear, calm yet powerful.
No, we no matter anymore. Grandfather, we don't need people like Liu Yin or her family. I promise you, one day I'll find a good wife, someone kind and sincere. But right now, what matters most is your health. We can't delay any longer. You need to go to the hospital right away. The villagers, who had gathered around, began murmuring among themselves. That's right, someone said. The Li family went too far. The boy's doing the right thing, another agreed. Taking care of Lister Quach's illness should come first. Hearing the crowd siding with Quach Ra, Liu Mai's face twisted with frustration. She shouted one last time, trying to save face. Fine, but everyone here heard it, right? It's your family who broke off the engagement first. So don't expect us to return the betrothal gifts. Gasps spread through the villagers. But Quach Ra just smiled faintly. The things your family took, the so-called wedding gifts, I wouldn't take them back even if you offered. They've already been used and sold, haven't they? Keep them. I don't need them. His tone was calm, but filled with dignity. Right now, I only care about getting grandfather the treatment he deserves. I have no time to waste arguing with people like you. The villagers nodded in agreement. The Li family stood speechless, realizing that the fool they once looked down on had become someone they could no longer humiliate. The Li family was bound to seek revenge, and Quach Ra had already vowed to make them pay back double. Seeing how calmly and decisively he handled everything, the villagers all nodded in approval, while his grandfather, Old Quach, watched from the side, deeply comforted by how righteous and composed his grandson had become. Meanwhile, Liu Mai quietly slipped away while everyone was praising him, hurrying back toward the town with anger and frustration on her face. After sending her off, Quach Ra immediately arranged for his grandfather to be admitted to the county hospital, leaving his older cousin there to look after him. When he returned from the hospital, he didn't go home, but instead headed straight toward a forested mountain near the county. If not for the memories from his previous life, he would have never dared to go there. With only 45 yuan left, he could barely cover the hospital fees. Yet this trip could change his and his grandfather's fate forever. There was a hidden fortune that could
Easily pay for all medical expenses,
and the clue to it was buried somewhere in that mountain forest. Years ago, one night, all the food coupons from the local supply and marketing cooperative had mysteriously disappeared, and the mastermind, an old worker named Lieu, was sentenced to 20 years in prison. He had hoped to get rich overnight, but when he was released, the coupons had long expired. Staring up at the sky, he fought back his tears, realizing his fortune was now worthless. In his previous life, Quach Ra had met Lieu by chance and heard him drunkenly reveal that he had buried the coupons somewhere deep in the mountains. Quach Ra remembered that night clearly. The old man had said to start from the southern slope, count 18 trees, then head inward. Following those words, Quach Ra carefully counted, step by step, until he reached the 18th tree. There, hidden deep within the forest, stood an ancient, twisted banyan tree, exactly as he remembered it. This must be the tree that old Tran had mentioned. Quach Ra picked up his tools and started digging on the shaded side of the trunk. Just as Lieu had said, the thing buried wasn't very deep. Sure enough, after a short while, his shovel hit something solid. Excitement flashed across his face. He knew this must be the bell that Lieu had hidden here. He looked around carefully to make sure no one was nearby, then continued clearing the dirt. Before long, a large, round-bellied bronze bell with a small opening appeared before him. Quach Ra took out the leather pouch he had prepared, reaching into the bell to scoop out handfuls of ration coupons, fabric tickets, and supply stamps, stuffing them into the cloth bag. "Old Luke," he murmured with a grin, "by the time you get out, these coupons will be nothing but useless paper. Let me help you take care of them now. Worst case, I'll make it up to you later." With a laugh, he filled the entire bag to the brim, slung it over his shoulder, and headed toward the cart he had hidden down the hill. On the way, he picked up a few dry branches and stacked them on top of the cart to cover the bag, making it look like he had just gone to gather firewood. Once he secured everything, he cheerfully pushed the cart back toward Dailing village.
When he got home, Quach Ra hid the bag of coupons and the precious goods carefully, then stood up and walked straight to his uncle's house. Earlier that day, he and his uncle had taken his grandfather to the county hospital, but they hadn't had time to inform the rest of the family. "Auntie," he said as he stepped inside, seeing her cooking, "Uncle and I took Grandpa to the county hospital today. He's stable now and has been admitted." She looked up in surprise. "Is his condition serious? I came home from work and couldn't find him anywhere. And by the way, people in the village are saying you've completely recovered." Quach Ra smiled lightly. "Grandpa's not seriously ill, but it's something that needs to be treated early. I didn't want to delay it any longer. Besides, my mind's clear now." "Thank you, Auntie too, and thanks to you, third aunt and uncle, for taking care of me all these years. From now on, it's my turn to look after this family. We're all one family, after all." "What are you talking about?" she said gently. "Now that you've recovered, your grandfather's health will surely improve too. Even your second uncle and aunt in heaven can rest easy." Quach Ra fell silent for a moment, remembering what his grandfather had told him, that his parents were brave heroes who had defended their homeland. He could no longer recall their faces clearly. Back then, he had been too young. All he had left was an old wedding photo of them, the only image that kept their memory alive in his heart.
"Don't bring up sad things anymore," Auntie Tu said with a smile. "Come eat. You must be starving." She served him a plate of stir-fried vegetables. "How did you know I was hungry?" he laughed. "It's 10 kilometers of mountain road from the county back here. I'd be surprised if you weren't," she teased. Quach Ra, 24 years old, was still unmarried. After her eldest brother disappeared, she'd given up her own chances at marriage. While her second and third sisters had already married and moved away, she stayed behind to care for her grandfather and her once simple younger cousin. She had turned down every matchmaker, determined to keep the family together for a few more years. "Oh right," she said suddenly, "Lieu has always treated Tran Thuy Lien kindly. Who would have thought that Thuy Lien would make false claims against her? Just earlier at the meeting, everyone scolded Thuy Lien terribly." Quach Ra nodded. "Auntie Tu, Lieu is a good person. Please look out for her whenever you can." You little rascal, Auntie Tu chuckled. You can't be holding one bowl of rice and still sneaking glances at another. You already have a fiancé, remember? Don't go daydreaming about Lin Wen. Come on, Auntie Tu, Quach Ra said seriously. You know what kind of people the Lieu family are. Once I've earned enough money for grandfather's treatment and things settle down, I'll go to their house myself and call off the engagement. Oh, and by the way, that Lieu girl came by today asking for money again. He then recounted everything that had happened 3 days ago. The Lieu family really has gone too far, Auntie Tu said, shaking her head. If that's the case, then it's better to end it. Quach Ra smiled faintly. As for Lin Wen, Auntie Tu, could you maybe put in a good word for me? You really don't waste time, do you? Already setting your sights on my good friend? You do realize Lin Wen is known as the most beautiful woman in this whole region, right? Quach Ra grinned. Then all the more reason to ask for your help, Auntie Tu. She laughed, pretending to scold him. You sly kid. But if Lin Wen really became my sister-in-law, maybe that wouldn't be so bad. But first things first. Didn't you say you were going to make money to treat your grandfather's illness? How am I going to make money, you ask, Sister Tu? Quach Ra smiled faintly, his tone calm, but his eyes sharp. Today, when I went to Chang County, I saw how hard it was for city folks to buy vegetables. They had to line up forever at the state-run market just to get a small bundle. So I told them, tomorrow I'll bring the vegetables straight to their door. Quach froze for a moment, the ladle in her hand trembling slightly. Tia Jia, don't do something foolish. That's called hoarding and reselling. It's risky. What if you get caught? Quach Ra chuckled. Those days are long gone, sister. The country's opening up now. Private businesses are being encouraged. It's written right there in the newspaper.
But we don't have much in our own garden, she said worriedly. How much could you really earn? Not much if it's just ours, he admitted. But what if I buy the vegetables from our whole village, or even from the nearby villages? Then it could be worth something. She frowned. But we don't have that kind of money. Most of what we had was taken away by the Lieu family. The room fell silent. The single oil lamp flickered softly, casting Quach Ra's shadow across the wall. His face was calm, yet his eyes burned with quiet determination, eyes that seemed brighter than the night itself.